This video will cover identifying the related party transaction tags, how to break the information in the note into transactions, applying the iXBRL tags themselves to the information in the accounts, and working through the iXBRL tag group assignments. You will see that the related party transactions text is highlighted in orange as the area that requires your attention. On the left-hand side of the screen, you will see the Suggested Tags window. In this window, we have listed all the iXBRL tags that could potentially be used to tag the text that appears in the related party transactions note. We will look at the information that's been entered and split the text into specific transactions. This example text can be split into 4 transactions as follows. Transaction 1. During the year, the company rented land for £25,000 that was jointly owned by Mr. A. Arthur and Mr. B. Benedict, the company directors and shareholders. Transaction 2. During the year, there was a charge of £10,000, £8,500 in the comparative year, for management charges. Transaction 3. At the year end, the company owed £13,500, £27,000 in the comparative year, to Mr. A. Arthur, 50% shareholder and company director. And Transaction 4, included in other creditors is a loan of £13,500, £27,000 in the comparative year, to Mr. B. Benedict, 50% shareholder and company director. It is important to understand how the information has been entered in your accounts production package will influence how easy it is to split the text into transactions. As you become more familiar with iXBRL tagging, this will be a consideration for you when you are entering your related party transactions disclosures. Once you have identified the transactions, we recommend that you approach the assigning of iXBRL tags one transaction at a time. It can be tempting to assign iXBRL tags to all the like items at once, for example assigning all the names of related parties first. We would recommend against this approach as it may lead to confusion when it comes to assigning groups to the tags. Assigning tags one transaction at a time should make the concept of groups easier to understand and more logical. With this in mind, let's start assigning the iXBRL tags. We'll begin with Transaction 1. Transaction 1 was during the year the company rented land for £25,000 that was jointly owned by Mr. A. Arthur and Mr. B. Benedict, the company directors and shareholders. When we analyse the first transaction, we see a transaction of £25,000 for land rent. When we compare this against the available iXBRL tags for related party transactions, we see that there is no amount due to or from a related party at the end of the year. This is just a transaction that occurred during the year. So for that reason, we will use the tag description of the transaction and general amounts involved. We can tag the whole sentence, including text, figures and currency symbols with this. As it's the first time we are using this tag, we will also assign it Group 1. With the first transaction tagged, now let's move on to the second transaction. Transaction 2 was during the year there was a charge of £10,000, £8,500 in the comparative year for management charges. Now this second transaction is very similar in the context of assigning a tag to the first. Again, there is a transaction that occurred during the year, and as with the first transaction, there is no amount due to or from a related party at the end of the year. So we will use the same iXBRL tag as we did in the first transaction. Description of the transaction and general amounts involved. As with the first transaction, we will tag the whole sentence, text, figures, brackets and currency symbols. And this is where we begin to look at how groups work. We will assign Group 2. We assign group 2 because we have already used this tag with group 1, and you cannot use the same tag with the same group to tag different pieces of information. The third transaction is where we start to use multiple iXperiod tags within the same transaction. The third transaction is stated: at the year end, the company owed £13,500, £27,000 in the comparative year, to Mr. A. Arthur, 50% shareholder and company director. If we analyse this transaction against the available tags, we can clearly see information that relates to the iXperiod tags. We have a name of related party involved. We have a description of the relationship between the parties, and we have two amounts due to the related party, one for the current year and one for the comparative year. So we will endeavour to tag this as follows: name of the related party involved is Mr. A. Arthur. Now, as we have already used group 1 and group 2 in relation to different transactions, we will add a new group for this one, which will be group 3. The description of the relationship between the parties is that Mr. A. Arthur is a 50% shareholder and company director. I will use group 3 for this tag as well. I do not need to increment the group because I haven't used this tag with group 3 already. Amount due to or from for the current year is £13,500. It's important that we do not highlight the currency symbol when we are highlighting amounts. We will also tag the current year figure with the same group number, as we have not yet duplicated a tag with that group. Amount due for the comparative year, the £27,000, again ensuring we do not highlight the currency symbol. Again, this tag is used, amount due from or to related party. When we confirm the tag for this one, we need to ensure we select the correct period, and as we with group 3 used the same tag for the current year, we need to assign a new group for the comparative figure. We've used names of the related parties involved and assigned group 3 on this tag. We've used the description of the relationship between the parties, also assigning group 3. We've tagged the £13,500 with the amount due to related party current year, also assigning group 3. And we've tagged amount due from to related party prior year, assigning group 4, because we've already used that tag on the figure for the current year. That's the third transaction completed, so now we can move on to transaction 4. The fourth transaction is very similar to the third, and the emphasis here is on how the concept of the groups develops with the number of transactions involved. In many of your related party transaction notes, there will be multiple transactions. So this should show you how the group should be used incrementally through each transaction. So as with the previous transaction, We have name of the related party involved in this transaction, who is Mr. Benedict. Confirm. Now in the previous transactions we've already used, as we can see here, groups 1 through 4. So for this tag we will assign group 5. Now the next element is the 50% shareholder and company director, which is the description of the relationship. So we simply highlight the tag after highlighting the text and hit confirm. Again, the software requires a group. I will assign group 5 again. As with the previous transaction, I had not used group 5 on any duplicated tag as yet. So the tag for the name of the related party and the tag for the description of the relationship between the parties can both maintain group 5. So the next element for this transaction is the amount for this year. So I highlight the amount due from to related party and hit confirm tag. The software needs a grouping. Again, with this I will use group 5 on the current year tag as well, because I haven't used this particular tag with group 5 so far. The final tag is for the amount due at the end of the comparative year. So I'll highlight the figure. Now this is where I duplicate the use of the amount due from to related party tag that I used on the previous amount. So when confirming this tag, I need to select the correct period, and also I need to add a new group, otherwise we will have two differing amounts assigned to the same group. We now have a fully tagged example of a related party transactions note. We have successfully tagged 4 separate transactions, we've used 4 different iXBRL tags, and we've used 6 different groups. This logic would continue if there was another transaction mentioned in the related party text. If there were another transaction, I would start by assigning group 7 to the iXBRL tags. If I had to use the same tag twice, for example to tag a current and comparative year amount, I would then use group 8 for the comparative year. When you are happy you've finished all the tagging required for that particular section, simply click Move on to Next Area. Let's have a look at the key points we've gone through. We know we need to break your related party text into those transaction elements. We know that the same tag cannot be used twice with different information. If we do need to use the same tag again, we must increment the group numbers used. Current and comparative figures must be assigned to different groups, and we need to incrementally increase the group numbers used through each transaction. Thanks for watching.